I think I'm just gonna mute my mic whenever I have to cough. Okay.
So still just feeling sick.
Yeah. Not it, like I'm over the hump, but it's just my body trying to get last little bits of it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the most
We're live.
recent. It's the most recent NFL news and action, and I just want to talk about it right off the bat. Bill Belichick is the best,
Belichick.
but the worst coach in the NFL.
Hmm.
And I just mean everybody hates him.
Yeah. Okay. Now it makes complete sense. Before that only made half sense. Yeah.
3 pass attempts, 2 completions, and like I don't even know how many runs, like 67 runs or something stupid like
40,
that.
45 or 7, somewhere around there. It was in the 40s.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know they went 32 run attempts in between passes. So
Yeah.
Granted, it was freaking windy. Like, did you guys see the clip of the Bills kicker warming up before the game? And he had one, it was like 35 yards out, straight. I mean, it was going to be dead center between the pylons, and about 10 yards before it goes through, it just gets rejected by the wind. So, I mean, I understand the game plan, and it was actually really smart, but it's still just like, it would be Bill that would do that.
Yeah, I think there might be people like me who see that and they're like, and they see that they won and they're like, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? And granted, you add the context of the conditions and this or that, and it makes more sense. But just in this pass-heavy quarterback first run is irrelevant for the most part league. Seeing that stat line win a game is just kind of like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fun.
He's clearly just a win at all costs, do whatever it takes kind of guy. I mean, even to the point where he's willing to cheat. but I think last night that really paid off. I'm surprised. I don't know. I guess I didn't see what Josh Allen's stat line was by the end of the game, but I mean, he had some pretty good passes even with the wind. But yeah, I think Bill once again just came to the game with a better game plan.
And not only that, but shocking that they could run that much, and the run game was never truly shut down by the Bills defense, which is tough because I don't want to overly criticize the Bills because they held them to what? It was like
14, it was 14-10.
14-10, so it's not like the run game was running rampant over the Bills. In fact, it was mostly one big run that got them the win by Damian Harris in the first half.
Yeah.
Besides that, they clamped down pretty good, but I guess it is still, you would think, if you're going on run attempt number 20 in a row, you would stack the box so much that it would shut the run down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the run was never completely shut down. It never became like, they always were able to run it. You know what I mean? There were a few 3rd and longs where they just ran it anyway, mostly because you knew they were going for it on 4th, but they weren't really forced to throw it at any point. So.
And one thing, too, is the Bills had multiple opportunities to get a lead in the second half, even in the 4th quarter, and they just couldn't get it done. So that's one thing, too. It's, the Bills didn't play bad, but same, I think it just comes down to Bill had a better game plan. I mean, when you're forced, when it's 3rd and long in their territory and you're throwing it, in that kind of wind. I think just the likelihood of pass being completed and people making it into the end zone is astronomically lower, where if you just run it all the game, you'll get in the end zone. So the Bills did have many opportunities to win that game, but their game plan just didn't fit the time and the weather as well.
No. And now the Patriots sit with the best record in the AFC. I think they're at 9 wins now. And they're alone at the top. They're the only 9-win team in the AFC. And it's looking like 2019 all over. We got 1 year off of the Patriots dynasty.
Yeah.
And okay, so the Patriots play the Bills not this week because they're on bye, but I think the week after, or I might be missing a week in there, but they play them in the next 2 or 3 weeks for sure. And this time it'll be in Foxborough. Based on this interesting game, do you think the Patriots will be able to take both and sweep their matchups this season, or was this not too prescriptive of that?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if they had played a game against each other in normal weather and circumstances and stuff. I think that game would have played out very differently. I think both are capable of beating each other, but yeah, I hope it's normal circumstances next time so we can really see how those teams face off.
Yeah, I would say it's too close to tell. There were definitely in that game opportunities where if the wind hadn't caught the ball, Josh Allen would have completed a few more passes. But I think the advantage that the Patriots have, regardless of conditions, is just they are more stout and more aggressive and tougher in the trenches than the Bills are. And the Bills have always struggled running the ball all year, and they've struggled a little bit to stop the run as well. So I think if they take too much into account the game plan of last week, I think in normal conditions, Mac Jones could eat them alive just because they're just playing the run too much. And so, like, the psychology of the last game, I don't know if that would happen if the Foxborough game was the first game in normal conditions, if that'd be the case. But the PTSD of just a few weeks ago, where they only ran through it 3 times, could affect Mac Jones' passing game. I like the Pats in the next game, but I'm not like super confident in that prediction at all.
I do too. You kind of convinced me there, talking about the mind games that are going to go on now with Bill Belichick. He's probably has him right where he wants him. Kara and I just watched The Princess Bride again. And that scene with where they're taking the poison? He's like, you would put it in the cup in front of you, but you would know I think that's what you put in front of me. That's going to be Bill Belichick in that rematch when it comes to scheming. And I bet you whatever, Bill Belichick will just get it right. So what they have going on, and this will kind of segue to another unfortunate primetime game that occurred. But the Patriots are just that team for the Bills. You know what I mean? Especially in a year like this where they're coming back. The Bills, deep in their bones, know that the Patriots are their daddy. They have been for a long time. They got 1 year off, but now they're back. That's exactly the case with Kansas City and Denver. And that's exactly what I said last week.
Yeah, you nailed it.
It looked exactly. Guys, I have seen the same game played 8 times in a row now. 8 times I've seen us lose, and it's the same exact thing every time. It's just the defense tries valiantly, and usually we play pretty good, but it's never enough. That offense doesn't take advantage of the opportunities. Once again, the Chiefs beat Denver, and the Chiefs are atop the AFC West. Do you think it's going to stay that way?
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why not.
Yeah. I mean,
The Chargers could catch them, but
the Chargers are good, but the Raiders are definitely taking a downturn. And wasn't it Chargers Raiders this week? Isn't that?
No, it was Chargers Bengals, and the Raiders played
right.
the Washington football team.
That's right.
And the Chargers did end up pulling that win out over the Bengals, right? Even though the Bengals kind of surged back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were up 24-0, I believe, or 23 or something like that. And then, yeah, it got close, but then the Chargers pulled away. And
okay.
I mean, yeah, the Chargers are really the only threat. I want to ask you, though, Parker, about your Broncos. Because, I mean, clearly the team has struggles. There was a point this year when they were like high in the power rankings. Like,
yeah,
there was a point
when they
where
were
some people,
undefeated,
yeah,
3-0.
Yeah, it was early in the year.
Yeah,
yeah. It's just crazy to think that. But what I want to ask you is, they're 6-6 right now, right at 500. If you were to pinpoint, like, what would you say is the win condition for the Broncos? What needs to happen for them to win games? Put them over the edge. What's the one thing, if they do this more consistently, they can finish with a winning record, they can be in contention for a wild card spot, or at least in future years they'll play better?
You know what I'm going to say. Everyone knows what I'm going to say. It's been the same thing since know who walked out of the building.
Okay,
we need a franchise quarterback. We need a game winner, not a game manager.
I agree.
That's what it is.
I agree. But break it down to like a game-to-game level. Like, with what you've got right now, what needs to happen for the Broncos to win games?
Well, yeah, I mean, look at everything we have going for us. Our defense has rebounded from an off year to being, again, a really strong unit in this league, with the top rookie corner, one of the best safeties. We still got Bradley Chubb on the defensive line. So we're really solid all around there. Not that we can't still get better. We have a ton. Our wide receiver room is bursting with talent that's untapped. Courtland Sutton, I will say this. I think Courtland Sutton isn't as good as some people think he is. I actually think he's one of the more average wideouts on our team. I think Jerry Jeudy is very, very good.
Oh, yeah.
I think Tim Patrick is actually really good. And then we just saw our rookie running back get his first real attempt at starting a game, and he just had the most yards in any game from a rookie running back this year. Javonte Williams is really, really good. I haven't said this about that many players. I said the only other Broncos player I'm this hyped about is Jerry Jeudy, because I think he was legit. But I think Javonte Williams is potentially the next, like, Jonathan Taylor sort of player, where he just kind of emerges and all of a sudden he's putting up 2,000-yard seasons.
That's what you'd like to see, man. That's what you would like to see.
Things need to swing our way, but we need, for that and other things to happen, we need to get a real quarterback. No more discount quarterbacks. I mean, no more going to the dollar store and coming back with your Teddy Bridgewater, with your Joe Flacco, with your Trevor Siemian, with your, I mean, come on, that's what it is. Because a real competent quarterback, if they had stymied the Chiefs' defense like they had last night, would have won that game. It was a winnable game.
Yeah.
But not by us. Not by us right now.
Sure. Okay.
What it is. So, Russell Wilson? What do you? Sounds pretty good to me.
looking healthier.
We've all heard the rumors. Russell could be gone next year.
Yep.
Pete Carroll could be gone next year. The entire coaching staff could be gone next year.
Shoot, the organization might be gone next year to Oklahoma City, maybe?
Yeah. Right. If it were to be anywhere, it would be there. Probably. No, I think so. Here's a positive that we got out of this week. I think it's a positive. We won. Obviously, we won our divisional matchup against the 49ers. Russell Wilson played leaps and bounds better this week than he did the previous 2 weeks. And I think it is just a combination of his finger getting better. But then, especially the week prior, losing to Washington, DK was like a non-factor in the game. And part of it's because, he's oftentimes treated as like the RC1, he'll get double teamed pretty often and stuff like that. So he gets shut down in games, but not enough to not get him the ball. But he didn't get the ball at all against Washington. I think he had 1 reception and maybe 1 or 2 attempts towards him. And during the week in press conferences, the offensive coordinator did say, like, all right, we need to get the ball to DK more. And I mean, first play of the game, straight over to DK. So DK got more involved, and I think that helped. Tyler Lockett had a couple, obviously, deep balls like he always does, which helped. Here's the thing that I don't like. I do, but I don't. Lots of rumors of Pete Carroll being on the hot seat if we lose this game, especially on how we lose it. Whether that would actually happen or not, I don't know. Probably not, just because it's Pete in Seattle. But, every bad loss puts him closer to it. And at this point, I don't know if I want him to be in the hot seat or not. But, in the end, our defense has actually, kind of like last season, just turned it around, and all of a sudden they're like top 10 in almost every stat. They just played so horribly the first few games of the season that our stats and our rankings and our numbers still look bad. But if you look at the last 5 games or even the last 8 games, our defense is doing okay. I think one big thing is our cornerbacks and safeties have kind of figured it out. Jamal Adams isn't blitzing as often. He's playing more back in a safety position, which is helping. We're getting a little bit more pass rush and things like that. But yeah, I think the Seahawks once again are turning things around. Clearly, it's too late for this season, so that's kind of why I'm torn. Not that I want them to just lose, but at this point, I just want to make sure whatever happens, I want Russell to be happy and Pete Carroll to keep getting the blame for crap, because I don't want to lose them both. If I lose anyone, it's definitely Pete. But I worry that it could be scrape everything on the plate into the garbage disposal. Let's rebuild kind of thing, and that's what's scary. And it's not just Russell. I mean, we could lose. I mean, defensive players too. We could lose Bobby Wagner. There's so many things that we could lose that we consider valuable just because this season has been so bad. So
I'm going to once again go on record and say you guys are not going to lose Russell Wilson. It's not going to happen.
I don't think so.
It's not going to happen. He's not a free agent. As long as he's not a free agent, he's not going anywhere. And he had an injury. But what I wanted to say is I'm shocked you've gone this far talking about this past huge win for the Seahawks without talking about the one man who clearly made it happen. I'm, of course, referring to Adrian Peterson.
Clearly, yes.
And he's the savior of Seattle. What do you mean?
Absolutely. I mean, his 1 yard rush for a touchdown, we really needed that.
First game, first week on the roster, scoring a rushing touchdown. I mean,
It's like he's done this before, maybe just like 4 weeks ago with the Titans.
he is the answer. No, he's not the answer, but your guys' run game sure need help.
Oh gosh.
Without Chris Carson. And Chris Carson, I think he is done in Seattle. He's been injury prone and inconsistent even when he's not injured. So
yeah, he's one of those guys where he has so much potential to be such a good running back because he's got an ability to run, but he has really good hands too. But you just see spurts of his greatness like 20% of the time, and the other 80% is he drops balls, he fumbles, or he's injured. So I agree. I like Chris Carson. I like the thought of him being healthy and doing good and being consistent. But I think at this point, that's one big weak area. The fact that we need to replace Chris Carson, but we need more depth in that position because Collins, Penny, DJ Dallas, and Adrian Peterson. I mean, none of those guys are someone you want starting at RB1 position. You know, they're not going to get you yards. And like I've said before, a good passing game relies on a good running game. So we want Russell Wilson, DK, Tyler Lockett to do good. Oh my gosh. Let's not forget freaking our tight end.
Gerald Everett.
Gerald Everett. Sorry. I mean, he almost lost us that game.
He had drops
Twice.
on drops on drops.
That was not. I don't even know why we paid. I think we gave a lot for him, and I really do think Will Dissly's a good tight end. Got great hands, but they keep starting other guys over him and trading for guys, and our tight end position's pretty weak too. Not as bad as our running back position. I was getting pretty fired up after those drops.
Well, you pulled out the win, so
you know what? You won.
We beat the 49ers. Feels good.
That's a divisional win is big. And the other team of our trio that we are contractually obliged to talk about each week also got a big win Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, dude.
That's true. And, I liked it. Obviously, who knows what happens if Taysom Hill, was a quarterback, but
right.
Hey.
And they won. W is W. I'm excited because the Cowboys do have.
What, Austin? 1 moment. I think Thomas needs to try and defend Taysom Hill being a quarterback.
No. He is definitely not a quarterback. He is.
Okay.
All I'm saying is, I feel how the Saints feel having a quarterback with a broken middle finger.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all fair.
Yeah, I think, 4 interceptions is really bad, especially the way those happened. I think I'll only blame 1 or 2 of them on the finger, if that. But I will give Taysom credit for finishing that game and playing with a lot of heart and passion.
How about the criticism, though, to the medical staff and or coaches for not pulling Taysom out and just putting Trevor Siemian in?
That's what I think should have happened, because he was pulling at that. They put a splint on his middle finger, and if you've ever thrown a football, you know that middle finger is right there on the laces, and it controls the release, the spiral, like everything. So I think that was the big problem there. But Dallas is a better team, so they should have won anyway, and they did.
And they did, and Yeah, it would have happened regardless. I think.
I would have.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's being the Saints. I'm glad it happened. It happened how it should have. So, end of story on that. But there is one thing that I've got to go on record of saying is that Kellen Moore is like not as good of an offensive coordinator as people think he is. And if he wants a head coaching job somewhere else, he's more than welcome to, because honestly, for me, he's not any better than Scott Linehan or Bill Callahan were before him. It's a lot of like, it looks creative, but it's actually not. And abandon the run a little bit too often. And
I was going to bring that up. I'm sure you're one of the Cowboys fans wondering why he didn't run that ball a little bit more in some key moments.
Yeah, and it's the same problem that we've had. Kellen Moore is a former backup quarterback to the Cowboys, former Boise State All-Star. Before him, we had Jason Garrett as our head coach, backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys in his former life. And, quarterbacks like to throw the ball a lot. And there's nothing wrong with the quarterback. There are a lot of great coaches that were former quarterbacks. But to me, the bread and butter of the Cowboys is still running the ball, and I've never wavered from that. To me, the Cowboys, the Rams, and the Bills are all three the same team. They're flashy, creative offensive play callers that don't run the ball enough, that are soft in the trenches. And the quarterbacks, all three of the quarterbacks need weapons to succeed. And don't elevate their players. So Dak, Matthew Stafford, and Josh Allen, to me, varying levels. I think Matthew Stafford and Josh Allen are both better than Dak, but to me, the Cowboys, Rams, Bills are all the same style of team, and I think all of them could potentially hold them back from playoff success this January. So that's my dissertation.
That's a good observation, honestly. I hadn't kind of made that connection with those three teams in an offensive perspective, but it's really true. And to kind of talk about the running game in Dallas, we know that Zeke has been kind of hobbled for the past few weeks ever since he got that knee injury in the middle of the game. And all season, Tony Pollard has looked really good. And he, at least to me, he looks a bit more nimble than Zeke right now, making some cuts that Zeke might not be making as much anymore. Do you think this offseason, is there a chance that you guys make the move and just, I don't know, deal Zeke out or just elevate Tony Pollard to that starting role? Or do you think you're still committed to Zeke because of the contract and just his history with the team?
They'll keep Zeke. I have a conspiracy theory about the touches between Zeke and Tony Pollard, actually, that I think that they are limiting Tony Pollard's touches because they're trying to hide him, because they don't want him to leave, and they also don't want to sign him. So, if they can keep his stats down and keep him from reaching too many bonuses, other teams won't want him. I mean, even though teams, I think, still would want him.
I think the cat's out of the bag already.
Yes, I know.
Seahawks we'll trade.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
You want Jamal Adams?
The Cowboys are doing their best to keep him.
Yeah.
And that's my conspiracy on that. But yeah, I think Zeke needs a break. I think
some people, if I'm going to interject, because it might connect to what you're saying, some people are kind of angry that the Cowboys aren't just sitting Zeke letting him get healthy for the playoffs. Would you agree with that, or do you think
I'd agree with that. Except I don't like. For me, it remains to be seen if Tony Pollard can carry the entire load. But I haven't seen anything to make me doubt that. But like, I haven't seen another running back play to like split those carries up. So like, it'd be detrimental if we lost Tony Pollard. If we gave him too many carries and we lost him, and we've got two hobblebacks going into the playoffs. So I think that we should be giving Tony Pollard more touches, a higher percentage of them, but we shouldn't be sitting Zeke because as he is right now, he's all the Cowboys need to succeed, in my opinion.
I think
you have a good
point
even
there.
80% Zeke is a good enough Zeke to put him in situations where we can win. I think in the playoffs even we should probably cut his touches and put him in situations where he has a higher likelihood of success than Tony Pollard in short yardage situations and goal line situations and stuff like that, or in pass blocking situations. Those are where Zeke would excel. I just think, I think we should just reduce the touches. I think that's all that needs to happen.
So kind of Zeke, line him up, first, second down back, goal line back, and then let Tony Pollard be that third and long or that 2-minute drill pass option.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was grinning when you talked about giving Tony Pollard a good heavy workload because did you guys hear the quote that Jerry Jones said regarding Zeke's workload this past week? He said, and I quote, "He's going to get a serious load."
Well, if Jerry Jones says it, it's going to happen. He's calling the shots, man.
Yeah.
He's the coach.
Especially
Zeke's
with
gotta,
McCarthy not there.
Zeke's got to eat a few extra bowls of cereal before the game this week with his like soup ladle spoon.
Luckily, they got 10 days to rest. They got like a mini bye week, so
that's pretty nice.
Also, that's the other thing I want to talk about. Is it just me, or is it wild that the Cowboys are playing 3 Thursday night games this year?
Dude, it's the Cowboys. It's America's team.
Of course, they got to play 3 Thursday night games. You guys played week 1 against the Patriots.
That didn't count as a Thursday night game.
I guess
technically, because it was Sunday night football on NBC, so it doesn't count as a Thursday night game. That was opening kickoff. Doesn't count.
All right.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, the calendar day was Thursday, but when it comes to TV, it was not a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant to say you played 3 games on the 4th day of the calendar week. Gregorian. No. Yeah. But I don't know. I just don't know if it's just an observation more than anything. I don't remember a team playing that many times on a Thursday.
Yeah. I mean, since the Cowboys have Thanksgiving, it gives them automatically.
That's an inflation,
games. And they don't normally play opening kickoff, so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they should.
Well, hey, maybe they will this coming year. Who knows, man? Who knows? What are some other must-talk about games this past week?
Well, the Detroit Lions getting their first win.
Oh, baby.
And, kind of lucky that they got the ball back. Dude.
They got lucky there, and it came down to the last play of the game.
Fourth down, 0's on the clock.
I think my favorite part about that game is, did you see them celebrating in the locker room afterwards? I was like, wait, is this did they win the Super Bowl, guys? Are we celebrating for the Super Bowl?
Dude, when you get your first win, losing a ton, it's
gotta feel good.
And you know what else? I think those players really wanted to get that win for Dan Campbell. And And I don't know if he's a good coach or a bad coach, but I can tell he's a coach that players respect. They know that he's putting his heart and soul out there, and he, what was it? It was like way back, week 5 or 6, where he like teared up at the post game interview, just talking about how he wants to get his guys a win. So,
yeah.
I can see why they got pumped up. This isn't a coach that they hate. This isn't a team that I don't know. I think most of the players there think that there's some potential to make a decent team out of Detroit in the future once they upgrade some things, so it was nice to see.
It's all about expectations, I think all the players kind of knew, like, hey, this isn't our year this year going in.
Yeah.
But they really like Dan Campbell, and they're buying into the system, and they're waiting for it to appear. And so, when it finally comes to fruition, like some success comes, like it's huge. We're on the opposite end of the field. The Vikings have higher expectations, and that loss is like, the biggest blow to your masculinity.
No, honestly, I
All
can't
your
think.
honor.
Can you think of a better team for them to beat than the Vikings? Because it's just like it's the Vikings. Like,
and again, a divisional matchup, and it's not just any game.
Yeah.
And the Vikings, they're a good team. They beat the Packers a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So
like, beating the Lions to them wouldn't have meant as much. But if they'd known that they could lose to them, it would mean more. But, had the Vikings won, they're like, oh, yeah, we won't beat the Lions. But,
Yeah.
But, it's all about expectations with the Lions. Minnesota's miserable. They have, 5 more wins than Detroit, but they had playoff aspirations. Kirk Cousins is having the season of his life.
Nobody cares.
But, like, statistically, he's having a great season. And so, I mean, Vikings got to feel even worse than the Lions do right now.
Oh, yeah. Here's what I want to know, Parker. Are you happy for Jared Goff that he got a win?
You
happy
man,
for him?
As far as I'm concerned, Jared Goff has had all the wins and more than he ever deserves. He had way more wins than he ever had. He went to the Super Bowl. Like, that guy doesn't need more W's.
All right.
Yeah, fair enough.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No. I was going to talk about another game. If you have something else to say about that game.
No. I was just going to say, just to kind of touch on what you guys already said, that definitely is a serious blow to the Vikings' playoff chances. They're still in the hunt in a NFC that has, like we said, it's the opposite of the parity of the AFC, where you could potentially get in that 7th seed with not a very flashy record at all, maybe a losing record. Who knows? So they're still in it, but they're set back, and they play this Thursday against who do they play? Oh, Pittsburgh. They play against Pittsburgh this Thursday, so that'll be a big game for them. If they drop 2 in a row, then they're gonna have to crawl their way back into playoff contention.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to say one thing about the Colts-Texans game, because obviously no one watched it, and if they started watching it, they probably stopped watching it pretty quickly unless they were Colts fans. The Texans not once got the ball past the Colts 40-yard line. We diss on Jacksonville. We diss on the Jets. Let me tell you guys, the Texans are struggling.
No kidding.
Yeah, I think no one talks about the Texans because it's hard. It might be hard. We're all the way to week 14, so like this season's pretty established in our minds. Like, oh, Detroit Lions, complete garbage. Jaguars, complete garbage. Going into the season, The Detroit Lions were going to probably be not very good. The Jaguars, who knew how they were going to be with Urban Meyer and their rookie quarterback, but everybody knew the Texans were going to suck.
And I think that's the thing.
That was not a question.
I think a lot of people have sympathy for the Texans and Texans fans because we know why. We knew why they were going to suck, and we know why they do. Their previous coach traded everything good the team had away.
Yeah.
Their star quarterback is a criminal.
Who also hates them, even if he had a clean record.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like, yeah, this is unlucky for you guys. Unlucky.
Yeah, the Texans are bad. Not much to say about that. What there is to say, though, which, again, I'm not trying to run victory laps, but it was weeks away. It was weeks ago where I said, guys, the Colts are actually pretty dang good.
It was.
And things have fallen their way in that division, mostly with the Titans' misfortune.
Yep.
But I'm also not convinced, and again, we have games to play, that the Colts wouldn't have been able to make that division close even if we still had Derrick Henry. No, we'll never be able to answer that. But either way, the thing with the Colts, too, is I think they're a team unlike the Bills, unlike the Rams, at least in the ways we pointed out, or Austin, you really pointed out with some of the weaknesses of a not consistent run game, flashy offense that struggles to win when it gets cold. The Colts, I think they're going to get stronger as the weather gets colder. They're a tough team, one of the best offensive lines in the league, the best running back in the league, and Carson Wentz playing football that's he's playing solid. He's hugely improved from last year. A year that could have forever cemented him as one of the, worst starting quarterbacks in the league. He's having a bounce back year.
Yeah. I think it helps when you have one of the best offensive lines in the league. I mean, from what he had last year at the Eagles, it's got to be like it's sunshine, rainbows, private island getaways kind of vibes for Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
In Indianapolis.
He's in a better situation for sure. I mean, well, think about this. Like, the Philadelphia Eagles look the same pretty much. They have the same, like, a record similar to what they had last year with Carson Wentz. And the Colts, right now, are having a similar year as they had last year with Phillip Rivers. So, like, he's in a lot better situation. And Doug Taylor's playing a lot better. And they might, like, I think the Colts were 11-5 last year. The Colts could finish 11-6. And they could finish, 10-7, similar record. So all Carson Wentz has got to do is just make sure they don't crash the ship. Just don't crash the ship. That's all I got to do, Carson Wentz.
But, it is nice being in a situation where part of the reason for his and their team's success is he isn't being asked to shoulder this team as much. Yeah. He is really complementary with the run game going on, where that run game obviously is gashing team after team, which will make any quarterback's life easier when the running back goes out there and gets all kinds of yards on pretty much anyone. So it's a good situation for Carson. We'll see. I think they'll get in the postseason. I think they could win a game or two. And excited to see when that comes up.
We got the formula. The December-January football formula.
Yep. Let me ask you guys, I think when the Colts traded for Carson Wentz, a lot of people gave a lot of criticism, like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Do you think at this point, do you think you can say the Colts are a little bit justified in why they made that decision? Or do you still think it was a pretty risky move, 50-50, flip of a coin?
Well, the one thing everyone had to acknowledge, even when it first went down, was the reunion of Frank Reich and Carson Wentz.
Exactly.
Gave it promise.
Yeah.
And that's come, I guess you got to say, to fruition, where Frank Reich appears to have brought Carson out of his funk. Because, look, here's one thing you can say that I don't know if you can say it's just, better people around you. Carson Wentz last year was throwing balls when he wasn't under duress and with open receivers that were just awful. I mean, there were montages, highlight clips of him just throwing garbage balls. And he's just not doing that this year like that. And I think a lot of that has to do with confidence.
Yeah.
And I think lots of that confidence comes from your coach and what goes on around you.
Well, even
it did take him a little to shake off that dust because he threw some bad picks early in the year. And, I just realized, too, the funny thing as well is when I was saying how the Colts were having a similar year this year as last year, I'm pretty sure last year they started 0-5 with Phillip Rivers, like terribly, and then went on a huge hot streak and made the playoffs. And the same thing this year. Yeah. So I'm like, we're having the exact same season.
I'm sure to go off what Austin said, Carson was making some bad decisions early on in the year, and he's definitely tightened that up. But I'm sure it was just Frank Reich multiple times. It's like, dude, you're on the Colts now. You don't have to make those kinds of throws. You can throw those balls away. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do that. You have got a running game. You got a defense. You've got you've got a team around you that can make up for the slack. You don't have to make plays like that. Because that's what I feel like it is at this point, is Carson could still make those plays. Plays collapse. Things don't work out. But instead of making the F it, someone's down there decisions, he's playing a little smarter, not making those decisions as often. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think you guys kind of hit the nail on the head that Colts are just a better place for him. Frank Reich's a better place for him. Obviously, the team's better. But yeah, they're kind of slowly heating up, and I think they're a team. Maybe one of you already said this, but I think they're a team that's going to keep getting better as we get deeper into the season, into the playoffs and stuff, because they're a tough team and they've got the personnel that'll outlast opponents, and they can take a beating. So.
Yeah, they would have probably looked pretty good on Monday Night Football in Buffalo.
Yeah. Already spanked them. And I think if they met in the playoffs again, the Colts would spank them again.
Yeah. Now, a team, though, that is similar to them is the Patriots. So both of those are kind of, in a way, similar with competent quarterbacks and a commitment to the run game, a physical brand of football. So, wow, it'll be really exciting if those, obviously, Patriots, Colts, that's a rivalry that's hasn't really seen a lot of life in a while, but obviously back in the day was huge.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Just looking at the games here. Or wasn't.
Well, we got to talk about Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Because that was the game I was watching, and not Seahawks 49ers, so I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because I didn't have to illegally watch it. So it was a lot easier to watch. So I was watching that game, and obviously it was the Ravens had it, and then the Steelers came back. Ben Roethlisberger got hot, and then there was the controversial call at the end. I don't know if you guys saw.
I didn't. You're going to have to fill me in a little bit.
I'm going to fill you in on this. So the Baltimore Ravens score a touchdown to tie with pretty much no time left on the clock.
Yeah.
It's 19-20. And instead of kicking an extra point to go into overtime, they go for a 2-point conversion and don't get it. And so, John Harbaugh's under a lot of heat on the decision to go for 2. And so his reasoning was, after the game, was that Marlon Humphreys went down and their secondary was banged up. Ben Roethlisberger was hot. He'd rather just put the game in his own hands and trust his playmakers to just win the game in regulation than go into overtime and where a coin flip could decide everything. So that was his reasoning. It obviously didn't work out. It was actually a good play call.
Lamar looks like he just
barely overthrew Mark Andrews, and like it was on his fingertips. And if all he has to do is palm that ball, and it's the 2-point conversion, they win. So it was a game. It was 3 inches.
Yep.
That was the difference between winning and losing the game. So what do you guys think?
I'll tell you, when I first heard what happened, my knee-jerk reaction was that's a stupid call.
Yeah.
Because that's just what I normally think. But when I did, I'm remembering all this now. When I did see the circumstances, obviously losing Marlon Humphreys, your top corner, is a big loss. And just thinking, if I could, who was it? Miami and Baltimore earlier this season, where they went to overtime, and that all came from a surge from Lamar Jackson in the second half, and then they go on and win in overtime. It's actually does seem to be the case usually when a team comes back and takes it to overtime, they usually finish it and they end up winning in overtime because they have all the momentum at that point. So with those things in mind, I don't hate it as much. It's still a tough pill to swallow, especially when it doesn't go your way. But I see the rationale. It would be hard for me if I were the coach to do that and not just give my team a shot in overtime. But I can see why he did it.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I kind of completely agree with that play because I think there definitely is something in keeping the outcome of the game in your power. I mean, like you said, your secondary just took a massive blow injury-wise. Their offense has been heating up basically the entire second half. So, yeah, you go in overtime, it comes down to a coin toss. Yeah, I think I typically would rather see that more often. Is, hey, let's keep it in our own. I mean, we can either win with this one play, or we can go to overtime, potentially lose a coin toss and lose the game, or we can win a coin toss, and then still have to, successfully complete 10, 15, 20 plays of full drive into an end zone. So, I mean, you're already there. You're on the 5-yard line. In that situation, it's like, do we want to just go from the 5-yard line right now, or do we want to potentially, have to go through a coin toss and multiple plays to get to the 5-yard line? So I get that. But I will say that throw by Lamar, it's weird. Like it wasn't ugly, but it was at the same time. Like, great play call. Andrews was wide open. The throw wasn't, completely terrible, but just watching it, you could see, oh yeah, that was too far and kind of behind him.
Yeah.
So it was an awkward catch for him. So yeah, I mean, it just comes down to poor execution on Lamar. But as far as making that call, I think I would have done that. I think that's the right call. That circumstance. Unlucky
call to make, but yeah, I mean, I see the reasoning of it. But here's a more deep question, a more long-term question about the Ravens: are the Ravens a team built for a deep playoff run, AFC Championship, Super Bowl?
No.
I mean, if we're going off of, let's talk about one thing that the Ravens also don't have: a consistent running game outside of Lamar Jackson. Part of that, a lot of that has come from injuries to their running back core, which started in the preseason. But the other issue, this season at least, is Lamar Jackson's been pretty inconsistent as of late. I think it was last week against the Browns. He had 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions and looked off.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of their whole division right now. No team looks impenetrable. They're all kind of hot and cold.
Yeah, like when they're good, they're really good, and when they're bad, they're really bad. That's the Bengals too. Like when the Bengals are on, they put people away, but they struggled against I watched that Chargers game that they had, and like the first half, Joe Burrow just couldn't get anything going. He was under duress the whole time. Jamar Chase had a bad drop, and it just looked awful. And then they came back, but then it was just a little bit too little, too late, and one mistake, and the Chargers got all the momentum back and put it away pretty handily. But that was, that whole division is just wow, and then wow. That sums up the AFC North.
Here's my problem with the Ravens is they have one way to win. Their entire offense is schemed and built around a run first Lamar Jackson. I don't know the best way to explain it, but it's all about Lamar basically running the ball well. And I think that's a team built to lose in the playoffs, because in the playoffs you're going against good teams, oftentimes teams that have had 1 or 2 weeks to rest and prepare for this game, and they're going to be a team that's good and can win in multiple ways. Has lots of win conditions where you're still stuck with your one offensive scheme, and if Lamar's having a bad day, basically throwing or running, you're in big trouble. And that's why we've never seen them make it that far in the playoffs in the past, and I don't know if we ever will. They're a good team and they can win a lot of regular season games, but as time goes on in the year, as teams figure out your offense more, and then just the fact that you have one way to win, I don't think that's a very good playoff team.
I still think I agree with you, Thomas, and I think part of it comes down to I still think they need to surround Lamar Jackson with more playmakers. They need to find some stability at the running back position. Marquise Brown he's a good wide receiver. He's not a great wide receiver. I think on most teams, he would be the second option when it comes to wide receiver. And I think they need to try and draft some more help there. Because, most of the time it is Lamar Jackson just having to make great plays. You know what I mean? I'd say probably the best offensive weapon they have is Mark Andrews, the tight end.
Yeah.
And I think you need a little bit more than that. And until they do, it's going to be Lamar has to play a good game, especially in January, when the stakes are high, and that's tough to do.
And I think even the games of course they have those blue moon games where they just dominate, like every play works out, every drive scores. But a lot of times the Ravens, it's still it's usually comes down to Lamar has 3, maybe 4 big plays. And then the rest of it's pretty mediocre, but it's usually just enough to win a game. You know what I mean? So it's it's fun to watch. It's cool.
They're not blowing anyone out this year. They're keeping it close. Like you said,
exactly.
Austin.
Yeah. It's fun to watch. It's cool, but it's just, and I see why they do it, because Lamar. I mean, in the end, Lamar's an amazing athlete and quarterback, but I think you just kind of put yourself into kind of a tunnel vision of an offense when you play with him and scheme around.
So that being said, they're currently leading the division with 8 wins, 4 losses. Bengals are 1 win behind them. Steelers and Browns 1 more win behind them. Does it still look this way at the end of the year? Does someone pass Lamar and the Ravens?
I'd have to look at the schedule. If a team were to pass them, I'd say the Bengals. I think that's possible, but I think the Bengals might have a tougher schedule. From here on out, I don't remember though. But if I were to pick a team that I think is just all around better, I'd have to give it to Cincinnati. Just like, I don't know if necessarily they'll win the division, but if I were to pick between the two teams, regardless of head-to-head, because the Bengals already, they blew them out of the water last time they played. But I mean, team for team, if they were to play every team in the league once, I like the Bengals. Roster just a little bit better, and I like Joe Burrow's moxie. I think they could pull away. I do like the Bengals a lot. I don't think they win a playoff game this year, but I like them.
I agree, and in all the talk about Joe Burrow, there's another Joe on that team that's sneakily having like a really good season. That's Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
He's putting up a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns. I think I read he's had a rushing touchdown for like 9 weeks in a row or something. So that's when you want to talk about consistency at the running back position that the Ravens sorely lack, that's one thing that the Bengals are enjoying right now. In addition to Joe Burrow, which can be a little hot or cold, same with his rookie wide receiver. But that could be the difference maker heading down the stretch is a running back and just a running game in general that can keep them in games for the most part. At least more so than the Ravens, I'd say.
Yeah. I agree with that.
You know what I think is funny is aren't the Bengals still supposed to be in like a rebuild? Like, I thought they were I thought they were supposed to be in a rebuild. This is working out pretty well for them. For being a team that 2 years ago and prior were trash. Then they picked Joe Burrow, complete rebuild. Last year, Joe goes out. He finishes terribly. They've just had that label of rebuild on them for 2 years now. But this year, they're doing fantastic. And
I thought the Patriots were supposed to be rebuilding too.
Yeah, what the heck? What the frig? Is rebuilding not cool anymore or something?
The Jets and Jaguars are like, how are these guys rebuilding so fast?
Yeah, pacing around, punching the air right now. Dang it, what was I going to say? Never mind.
It comes to you.
Oh, the Bengals are a piece or two away from being a force. Another year of Joe Burrow developing, another year with Jamar Chase. I think they're an offensive lineman and a good pass rusher away from just being a pretty dominant force in the AFC.
I think you're right. Lots of people criticize them for not going offensive line in the first round this year and opting for, I think that's where they took Jamar Chase, right?
Yeah.
But it's worked out decently. But now I think if they go ugly in the draft, get those trench players, then I think you're absolutely right. They're looking really solid.
Yep. For sure.
I don't think we can end our podcast without talking about Tua.
We did talk about it. Was it yesterday or the day before?
Yeah. At least as that. Tua,
right?
Franchise quarterback.
Here's the deal, man. Here's the deal. He's not as bad as we all thought.
Some of us tried to defend him, so we didn't all think he was bad.
Yeah,
I was on your side.
That's true. I don't think he's going to get 30 touchdowns this year. It's possible. Hey.
It is possible.
It's possible.
You have to throw a lot.
You can say it's possible. I was going to say crazier things have happened, but that's something you probably can't say. That would be about the craziest thing that could
How
happen.
many games are left? Like 5?
I think so.
Here's the
You have to
deal.
throw like 6 touchdowns a game.
I'm going to cut him some slack, though. He missed some games this year. So
Yeah, he did. He did.
not enough to be close, much closer to 30 touchdowns. But here's the deal. When Tua starts, when he's around, when he's on the team, the Dolphins win games. And, I think Tua does, maybe more than the skills, does have some good intangibles, which help with that kind of stuff. But I think, we got to remember that this is his second year in the league, and he had it a lot worse than most quarterbacks do coming onto a team in a starting position. So, he's got time. He's still in that rookie contract. He's got time to flourish. He's got time to blossom. I guarantee you. Okay, I don't know if I actually want any hard statements on this. But
Please.
We've done the guarantees around 2 already.
He certainly does have the potential to get a 30 touchdown season one day in his career.
I completely agree, actually. I think Tua is well on his way to replacing what was it? Last year it was better or worse than Alex Smith.
Oh, yeah.
This year, okay, it's not fair to say this year, but it feels like it should be Kirk Cousins. But Kirk Cousins is actually really good this year.
Yeah.
But he's still Kirk Cousins. You know what I mean?
Yes,
I know
guess.
exactly what you
Yes.
mean.
Tua's well on his way to that. That's his destiny. You know what I mean? Stability, reliableness, not sexy, and in the end, not winning Super Bowls, but very much capable of truly, I guess you got to call it nothing but greatness. Great mediocreness, mediocrely great. I don't know how to say.
Yeah, he can.
That's
Here's the thing: he's never going to win a Super Bowl, but he'll probably get paid a lot of money. Someone will pay him a lot of money. If someone can pay Kirk Cousins a lot of money, Tua can definitely get a good amount of money.
That'd be the worst thing to happen to Tua. I think part of Tua's success is that, well, I mean, the off hit. To be fair to Tua too, I agree with you guys. Actually, he does have the potential to flourish and be a starter in this league for a long time. But, and emphasis on the word potential. And his offensive weapons aren't very good, but he has a very good defense, and he manages the game very well.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Alex Smith, Kirk Cousins level. I can see that being the ceiling.
Yeah.
But what's luckier about him though is that he wins games. He just happens to win games, whereas Kirk Cousins just happens to lose them. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good, So
you're very right. I think I just made that connection too. He totally is. He's a good game manager, which is exactly what Alex Smith was. He's nothing special, but he manages the game well. You know what I mean?
Can be what Kirk Cousins isn't just a good game. He's the game manager. You know what I mean? If you want a game manager, that's his plaque is all over the wall. The game manager of the year, every year, every month. And Alex Smith was also that, especially in Kansas City for a good while. But I agree. That's where
who Tua reminds me of is the quarterback of his alma mater, Mac Jones. They're playing really similarly right now.
Yeah, they are.
And so I think Mac Jones is better already, but Tua's not too far behind him.
for sure.
right now. As of right now, like the skill level what we've seen on the field.
Game managers win Super Bowls in New England. That's the trick.
That's the trick. Okay, before we end, I just have this weird, like, oops. Sorry. I have a weird question. It's really hypothetical, just kind of out there, not based on a lot of facts or information. But I think we gotta bring up the fact that Tom Brady is once again right in that race for MVP at 43 or 44 years old. His team is in the Super Bowl race. He's in the MVP race. You know, he's performing well. And, you know, I think we've talked about it before, but my respect for Tom Brady always existed. Always existed. But I was never willing to admit it until he left the Patriots. But one thing that I think you can attribute a huge portion of Tom Brady's, you know, NFL success to is his willingness to take pay cuts to help build a team around him. I want to know, you know, Tom Brady, he's going to be gone fairly soon. Do you think anyone's ever going to figure that out? Is there any top tier quarterback that's going to be like, you know, maybe I should win more Super Bowls and maybe I should take some pay cuts? And second off, do you think that's something that can be repeated, or do you think it's just the situations Tom was in provided that opportunity?
I'm never going to say never because you never know. I never would have expected a quarterback to ever win 7 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Like, you know, 5 years ago, even, I would have been like, no way. There's just no way. But it could be. We may see it again, but, you know, the likelihood is very low.
Yeah. And sorry, I'm not saying like someone needs to repeat the success Tom Brady has, but do you think there will ever be someone that is like, I'm going to take pay cuts and build a good team around me? You think that's going to be somewhat of a meta, or is that like an exclusive Tom Brady thing?
Well, here's the thing that goes with that. You're like, well, someone figure it out that that's what you do. That goes beyond football. You know, if some people have, most people actually, almost everyone have desires for their life beyond winning Super Bowls, even NFL players. They want money. Lots of them are seeking generational wealth and whatever else that comes with that. So there may be some of them that would say, I wouldn't even make that trade if it was a guarantee. You know, now that Tom Brady's not making lots of money, I think what the key is you need to not only have a situation like Tom Brady where number one, lots of people like to point out he has a rich wife.
Yeah.
That's true. So he has money like, anyway.
Dude, you're like, really? You're going to be, you know, all thrifty and pinching pennies because you're only making $25 million a year instead of 40? That's my thing.
Here's the other trick, too, is other players don't have the confidence to do it.
I was going to say that.
It's not even, they're like, for most quarterbacks, even ones that are looking hot right now, I think most of them realize that they could be irrelevant in 3 years. They could be injured. They could be whatever. I mean, there's so many quarterbacks in the league now, like Jared Goff. We're only a little bit removed from everyone thinking Jared Goff was part of the new wave of elite quarterback talent, and he's now cast to the side in Detroit, and there's tons more like him. So Tom Brady had this unshakable confidence that he had longevity, that he was going to be a starter for a long time, which has turned out to be true to the extreme. And what I already mentioned with his wife, and then finally, he wanted to win more than he wanted the money. I don't think it's not easy to find that combination And then on top of that, they have to be good enough and in the circumstance where it'll even make a difference.
Yeah, that was another thing I was going to say. Like, even if, teams took pay cuts, it wouldn't guarantee that you win a Super Bowl. Like, for example, Kirk Cousins, he has a lot of weapons. With his contract, Dalvin Cook, when he's healthy, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson now, Stephon Diggs before Justin Jefferson, all sorts of weapons, defense with Harrison Smith, Anthony Barr, all sorts of guys on defense too. Hasn't made a difference for him, even with his huge contract. The pay cut I think is only a very small part of why Brady's successful, because people also look at, like, even with the pay cuts, they weren't paying a lot. The Patriots always had a lot of cap space, and they weren't using the extra cap space to fill in. The best weapon Brady ever had was Randy Moss. That was the best receiver he's had by far.
Wasn't that just one season?
Two
seasons.
Well,
yeah.
A year and a half. If Brady doesn't tear his ACL, it'd have been 2 full years. But it was. A lot of things fell into place for Tom Brady. One, Drew Bledsoe got injured. If that never happens, we don't see Brady for another few years, at least. So then he gets to step in. He wins a Super Bowl his first year as a starter. That just automatically starts your legacy. You're like, I've won a Super Bowl. Your confidence is through the roof. No one doubts you that you can win a Super Bowl because you've done it. And so now it's just success piling upon success, and it just builds exponentially. And a lot of things fell into place for Brady. And the TB12 diet and all that stuff came later. We got drafted fat. So the mentality came with the growth and the success. And the more success he had, the more he's able to see what it took to be successful and was able to channel it. And it's just this crazy thing of where just so many things fell into the right place to the right person who had the right mentality, who took advantage of all those opportunities. And that's something that's just incredible. I'll never say we'll never see it again, because you never know, but I'd be really surprised. It's just insane.
Yeah.
I would say, and you guys tell me if you disagree, but there's only one quarterback in the league right now that I'd say if they implemented that strategy, it would seem like that would help ensure long-term success, and that would be Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He seems to be in that mold where even though he's coming off of what's still only so far a half season kind of slump, it was very short, and he's playing fine again, but he has that opportunity. He has the coach. He has what seems to be that perfect situation where if he goes in his career and he makes those decisions so they can continue to build on both sides of the ball, then it's, that's what stands out to me as it could happen again in that sort of situation.
Yeah. I think and I'm biased and stuff, but I think of last year, Russell Wilson. If you took a pay cut, you'd probably have a better offensive line. You'd be a lot better off. You know what I mean? It's things like that. Now at this point, no, because who knows who's going to be left next year? Could be everyone, could be no one, kind of thing. Yeah, I think you're right. Definitely, it's almost more, and I'm sure this is how it was with Tom. It's more like, hey, we could get this guy. Would you be willing to sacrifice for it? It's not like, all right, I'm going to sacrifice $10 million. Let's see what we can get. It's more like, hey, this guy's available. If you want him, we can make it happen. But you're also right, Austin, and they always had a ton of cap space. So I wonder why he did it in the first place. No?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, and that's the other thing is money. That's one of the beauties of the NFL. Money doesn't guarantee a team's success.
Yep.
There's some positions, especially offensive line, where you can be sitting with $100 million of unused cap space, And the problem is you have no one to pay the money to because there's no one who seems available, so there's so much to it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, been another fantastic week of the NFL and Leaguecast, the internet's best scuffed podcast there is. If you're listening, thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. Stick around for more. Have a good week.